The Legend of Panglima Angin. Once upon a time, in the Muntok area, West Bangka, there lived a man named Abang Daud. His work every day is just making a mess everywhere, just like stealing and robbing other people's belongings. After some distance, the old man passed by his hiding place. Abang Daud secretly followed him on tiptoe. He was about to pick up the fruits in the old man's back basket, but without realizing it, it turned out that the old man was a martial arts warrior with high knowledge named Longguan, who was famous as Ape Longguan. Many people came to learn from him. Perceiving that someone was following him, Ape Longguan immediately snapped, "Hey, don't mess around." How surprised Abang Daud was to hear the shout, especially when the old man turned to him. It turned out that the old man was Pek Longguan, a fairly respected martial arts teacher in Muntok. "Oh, sorry Ape Long, how did you know that I was behind you? Do you have inner knowledge?" asked Abang Daud. "No, not. I don't have any knowledge. I was just guessing and it just so happened that I guessed right," replied Pek Longguan as he continued to pass regardless of Abang Daud. However, Abang Daud continued to follow him. "No need to lie, Pek Long. You must have inner knowledge. I beg you to teach me, Pek Long," Abang Daud said. After a couple of moments, Abang Daud begging Pek Longguan to teach him, Pek Longguan admitted that he indeed has an inner knowledge. He was also willing to teach his knowledge as long as Abang Daud was willing to meet one condition. "All right, Abang Daud, I'm willing to teach you as long as you want to change your behavior that likes to make a mess in this village," said Pek Longguan. "Okay then, Pek Long, I promise I won't make a mess again," said Abang Daud promised. "Then come home tomorrow," said Pek Long as he continued his way to the market. The next day early in the morning, Abang Daud went to Pek Longguan's house. When he entered the yard of Pek Longguan's house, it appeared that a number of Pek Longguan's students were practicing martial arts and mime. "Whoa, it turns out that Lok Pek has a lot of students. Why didn't I learn with him from the old days?" he muttered with regret. Seeing the arrival of Abang Daud, Pek Longguan immediately told him to sit down to be briefed. After that, Abang Daud also participated in training with other students of Pek Longguan. Since then, he has become a disciple of Pek Longguan. He is an intelligent student and can understand and master the moves taught to him perfectly. No wonder if Pek Longguan loves him very much and is willing to give all the knowledge he has. After mastering all the knowledge given by Pek Longguan, Abang Daud said goodbye to his teacher to migrate to Malaya land, or Palembang, South Sumatra, to improve his life. "Thank you, master. The science that the teacher gave me will use for good," said Abang Daud. "I hope so, my disciple," said Pek Longguan while telling Abang Daud with a string of rhymes and verse like the following. "Wahai Ananda hamba bermanat, simak olehmu petuah amanah, peganglah dengan hati yang bulat. Semoga Tuhan memberimu berkah, maka seperti kata orang tua-tua. Sebelum melangkah pegang petuah, sebelum berjalan amanah di padan, untuk bekal anak berjalan. Manfaatkan ilmu pada yang terpuji, menjaga diri membela negeri. Manfaatkan ilmu pada yang patut, supaya tak sia-sia anak menuntut. Ilmu jangan dipermain-mainkan, pantang sekali dilagak-lagakkan. Ilmu jangan disia-siakan, amalkan olehmu pada kebajikan. Berbuat baik engkau kekalkan, tolong menolong engkau utamakan. Tiru olehmu ilmu padi, semakin merunduk, semakin berisi." After promising to carry out all the advice of his teacher, Abang Daud sailed to Malaya by boat owned by Haji Ali from Muntok. During the trip, Haji Ali always gave him advice. "Oh, Abang Daud, when you arrive in Malaya, you must be good at keeping your mouth, because the customs of the residents there are different from ours in the village," said Haji Ali. "What is it, Mr. Haji?" asked Abang Daud curiously. "If you hear chickens crowing 3 times in a row instead of in time, don't you answer. If you answer that, it means you've defied the Malayan customs. As a punishment, you must fight against the Panglima of Malaya," Haji Ali said. "All right then," said Abang Daud with a smile. After days of sailing across the vast sea, they arrived in Malaya at the same time as Maghrib. The moment they set foot in the harbor, there was the sound of roosters crowing 3 times in a row. Without realizing it, Abang Daud answered the rooster's crow. Cock-a-doodle! So was the voice of Abang Daud. Apparently, the answer to Abang Daud Rooster Crow was heard by the spies of the king of Palembang who were standing guard at the port. The spy immediately reported it to the king. Mercy, your majesty, the servant heard the sound of a rooster that had just docked in the harbor. The spy reported. Guards, look for the rooster from the other country who has dared to challenge the customs of the Malaya land, ordered the king. Hearing the order, several palace guards immediately headed to the port to find the rooster and took him to the palace to face the king. Not long after, the guards returned with Abang Daud. Hey stranger, who are you? Hey stranger, who are you? How dare you defy the customs of this land? Asked King Palembang in squealing tone. Mercy, your majesty, I am a nomad from Muntok. People call me Abang Daud. Please spare your mercy if I have violated the customs of this land. Abang Daud pleaded with the king of Palembang while saluting. Just so you know, Abang Daud, whoever violates the customs of this country, then he must receive punishment, which is the fight against the Panglima of Malaya, said the king of Palembang. Mercy, your majesty, I am willing to accept this punishment, but give me 3 days to recharge first. I was exhausted after days of sailing tossed in the middle of the sea, begged Abang Daud. After conferring with his commander, the king complied with Abang Daud's request. While waiting for the day of the fight to arrive, Abang Daud stayed at Haji Ali's house. In order for Abang Daud not to flee back to his country in Muntok, the king of Palembang set some of his guards to guard around Haji Ali's house. In the evening, after dinner, the ship's master talked with Abang Daud. Hey, Abang Daud, I've been warning you many times, but you're still breaking the customs of this country. Finally, you accept the consequences yourself, said Haji Ali. Don't worry, Mr. Haji. Let's hope I can solve this problem myself. I apologize if I have troubled Mr. Haji, Abang Daud said calmly. On the appointed day, Abang Daud came to the king to keep his promise. Not to forget, Haji Ali along with other Muntok residents participated in the Palembang royal palace to watch the fight. As fellow Muntok people, they always gave encouragement and support to Abang Daud to survive death. When Abang Daud and Turij entered the palace grounds, it seemed that the entire palace family and the king's guards had crowded around the prepared battle arena. Occasionally, there was a sound of ridicule from the audience who underestimated Abang Daud's ability. That guy came here just to deliver a life. He will definitely die lying on the arena against the Panglima of Malaya, said a guard. Meanwhile, when he saw the arrival of Abang Daud, the king of Palembang immediately ordered his head to provide various types of weapons and told Abang Daud to choose the weapon he wanted. However, Abang Daud refused the offer. Mercy, your majesty, I am not using weapons in fighting, except for these chicken spurs, said Abang Daud, showing his chicken spurs. All right, if that's your choice, the fight is about to begin. Are you ready, Abang Daud? Asked the king of Palembang, assuring Abang Daud. I am ready, your majesty, replied Abang Daud as he walked to the arena that had been prepared in the palace courtyard. When the two fighters were on the arena, Raja Haji and his entourage from Muntok were increasingly anxious to watch the fight, and like the entire Malaya community, they cheered happily while continuing to humble Abang Daud. They were confident that it was their commander who would win the fight. Hi, Abang Daud, pray before your life flies, shouted one spectator from Malaya. Right, Abang Daud, tell the people of Muntok before you die needlessly at the hands of our commander, added another spectator from Malaya. Abang Daud just smiled at the taunts hurled at him. Moments later, the fight began. The Panglima of Malaya started the battle by attacking first, while Abang Daud only repelled and avoided the attacks that came barrage. Many times the Panglima of Malaya launched attacks. Many times Abang Daud was able to dodge and avoid it. When he saw that the Malayan commander was getting tired, Abang Daud turned to attack. With just a few moves, Abang Daud managed to thrust his chicken spur right into the left hole of the Panglima of Malaya. Immediately, the proud Panglima of Malaya fell unconscious. The entire Malaya community who witnessed the fight was shocked, especially the king of Palembang. The king really never thought before that Abang Daud was a very tough and powerful warrior, while the people of Muntok, who were originally only silent, shrouded in anxiety, suddenly shouted with joy to see the victory of the warriors who came from their homeland. As a wise king, the king of Palembang also appointed Abang Daud to be the new commander of Malaya with the title Panglima Angin. Since then, Abang Daud lived in the royal palace of Palembang with a luxurious life. His name is increasingly famous to various countries. He is highly respected by the people of Malaya. Apparently, that rank, position, and fame made him forget himself. His illness began to recur. It always makes noise everywhere. The king of Palembang could not do anything. One day, Abang Daud, who had the title of Panglima Angin, returned to his hometown. In his village, Panglima Angin's behavior became more and more unbearable, so the people of Muntok became restless. Hearing the news, Tumenggung Muntok immediately ordered residents to arrest him. However, none of the citizens were able to fight. However, none of the citizens were able to defeat his magic. "What should we do, Tumenggung?" asked a resident with concern at a village meeting. I guess the only person who could catch Abang Daud was his own teacher. Do you know who Abang Daud's teacher was? Tumenggung Muntok asked the residents back. Hey, didn't he learn with Pak Longwan? Asked one citizen. That's right, Tumenggung. He was my old training mate, another resident added. Finally, some residents immediately called Pak Longwan. Not long after, Abang Daud's teacher came to the village meeting. "I am so sorry, attendees. Actually, I was hesitant to catch Abang Daud because I had given all my knowledge to him," said Pak Longwan. After being urged by the residents, Pak Longwan was willing to help and immediately found a sense to be able to defeat his students' magic. At that moment, he suddenly remembered one weakness of Abang Daud. In the past, Abang Daud once told him that he couldn't swim. Therefore, he will persuade him to accompany him to fetch water in the river. At that time, he would push Abang Daud into the river. The next day, Pak Longwan went to see Abang Daud. However, before inviting him to the river, he tried to persuade and advise his favorite student once again. "Wahai Ananda, dengarlah amanah. Kalau hidup, peganglah wakil. Kalau mati, peganglah amanat. Pegang petuah dengan amanah, pegang tunjuk dengan ajarnya. Wahai anak, dengarlah amanah. Ingat-ingat engkau berjalan. Jangan dengar bujukan setan. Hawa nafsu jangan turutkan. Pertolongan Allah engkau mohonkan. Hati-hati engkau berjalan. Petuah amanah jangan lupakan. Tunjuk ajar jangan abaikan. Ilmu di dada peganglah teguh." Receiving advice from his teacher, Abang Daud, instead of thanking him, cursed his teacher. "Stop all your nonsense, old man. I'm fed up with all your advice," snapped Abang Daud. "All right, my student. It's okay if you really don't want to listen to my advice anymore. But I have one last request from you. Are you willing to help me fetch water in the river? The water supply for cooking and bathing in my house has run out," pleaded Pak Longwan. Apparently, Abang Daud knew the tricks of Pak Longwan. He was looking for a way to kill his teacher. "I am willing to help you, old man, but you have to walk in front of me," said Abang Daud. Finally, they set off together to the river. Pak Longwan walked in front and Abang Daud followed him from behind. Arriving by the river, Pak Long was a little caught off guard. Abang Daud did not waste the opportunity. He also kicked the old man's buttocks until they bounced and rolled on the ground. Because he has high powers, Pak Longwan has not died. He also tried to get up while enduring the pain. "You lawless disciple, how can you did so to the teacher of yours?" Pak Longwan said, pissed. With the remaining energy he had, Pak Longwan tried to put up resistance. He took out all his martial arts abilities. When Abang Daud was caught off guard, he threw a hard and precise kick at the nape of his student's neck. Abang Daud was bounced into the river and drowned. Finally, the ungodly disciple met his end. The moral of the story is, never feel high in what you have achieved and never forget to the service of those who have educated and guided you. That's all from me, Flora Jasmine. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.